What's up, everybody? I've released over 40 free automations at afonto.com/automations. A lot of these having detailed instructions on how to set them up, and you can very easily just download these. No opt-in required, no nothing. And in this video, I'm going to be revealing the number one most requested automation that is also simultaneously the worst automation. And by the way, I'm not exaggerating on the fact that it is the worst automation. I truly believe that this is a really bad automation, but a lot of people reach out to me trying to get this automation. In fact, let me reveal what it is and then we'll get into the explanation in a second. So, it is this one right here. Respond to emails from Slack. It's a 3-step automation, and the end output of this automation is that it helps you respond to smart lead emails from Slack. And so the reason why I built this is for sales team who are wanting to collaborate with one another. Now, a lot of the times when people reach out to me, they want this simply because it's a fancy automation. That's one of the reasons it's bad. I'm going to get into all the other reasons why it's bad. But I highly discourage them to download this because you don't want to actually build any fancy automations. Every single automation you want to have is something that is taking time off you, right? From your manual tasks, right? And over here, I've got 41 tasks. And oftentimes I hear people saying, you don't need these many automations to succeed. And I find that amusing because it's like saying, you don't need employees, you don't need SOPs, you don't need capital, you don't need code, you don't need any kind of leverage whatsoever. Well, if you're trying to make 5 to 100 times more than the average person, you are going to need 5 to 100 times more leverage than the average person. And there's many ways to get leverage, right? I just listed a few of them. But automations is one of those leverage factors, right? It's code, right? And with automations, one person can get the same amount of work done as 10 people. And with AI now and the way that all of this stuff is progressing, you might actually be able to get better work done than regular people. Now, that's how I define a good automation, which is something that takes manual time away from you and does that, operationalize that, systemizes that, and does it for you, right? And so when we go back to this particular automation, responding to emails from Slack, this is not something that many teams are currently doing. If you're currently doing this, where you're going through your smart lead inbox and you're finding these emails and you're like, oh, I should probably get my client to give me some feedback on this. And so you take that email, you put it in Slack, you give it to the client, and then you wait for their feedback, and then you come back to it 30 minutes later, a day later, however long later, and then you send the email directly in Smart Lead, and that process is taking you guys one day typically. This is an amazing automation. 10 out of 10. This is literally amazing. But that's not what most people are doing. Most people are not doing anything of that nature. And so downloading this is actually more of a waste than a gain. Let me show you another one that's not quite as requested, but should be more requested than any other automation. Client reporting, right? And so client reporting is a function of communicating with the client on a cadence, right? And the way I like to communicate with clients is on a weekly and bi-weekly basis. And the way that I do it is very, very dynamic. So this is an example of a performance report, which has a long, detailed description of everything that's going on. This is another example of a performance report where we are sending a very short description and we're just sending them like, this is the prospects, this is the reply, this is the engaged, this is the transferred. And then in addition to that, we are sending a Loom video, and we are also sending them like how many leads we've generated. Same type of idea, but different out- outputs, right? And what facilitates that is this client comms dashboard, right? So this client comms section allows us to send a very wide array of emails dynamically, systematically, with due dates, ensuring that we're sending them in the exact times that they need to be sent to the correct client with the correct email type, with the Loom videos, email drafts, and different SOPs attached to those. As you can see, we've got a bunch of SOPs like must have recipients, must have subject line, must have email draft, right? Ensuring that we're sending it to the right person. And we've also got other automations over here, which is like task, right? So inside here, client comms, so we could do task, and then I put com. So client comms, create a new task when client is moved to active. Well, this is a client comms task, and then this is a weekly task as well, right? Ensuring that every single week we get a brand new task to communicate with the client, right? This is something that would normally take up brain power, brain bandwidth for you to remember that you need to be sending a report, right? But it's operationalized, right? And in fact, I'm going to send one right now to show you how simple it is, right? So we've got a sample email, due date is tomorrow. We've got a subject line. Oh, and in fact, I had just removed the recipients. Though I don't think this is particularly relevant for where we're at. But we've got a subject line, Afonto report, email draft. Let's change this to email with a bunch of L's. And then let's go ahead and move it over to the next step, right? And so, like, think of this, right? If you're sending an email to the client and this is one email that you're sending once a week, you don't want to mess that email up, especially because you're given the opportunity to customize it to your own liking. You might want to put a link. You might want to see how that's going to be reflected because that's the only email that they're seeing from you in the whole week, right? Supposedly, right? So you want to actually have a step that says test the email, right? And so when we click send a test email and we go back to the inbox over here, it's actually running an automation right now. And over here, we've actually just got an email. And by the way, this one, like, it's still in progress. We're just finishing it up. And also in a different sense, this is why we have the test email section, right? So that we don't send any emails that could go badly, right? This is email types, right? So we've got a bunch of different email types. We are live, performance report, all of these, and the automation that facilitates this is let me show that to you. By the way, this is not like a showcase of the client comms. It's a showcase of what good automations look like and what bad automations look like, why you shouldn't build certain types of automations. And so this is what it is. Send a test before you sending to a client. And so it uses chat GPT and a data store and all of this. And the reason why that one came out as badly as it did with like all of the HTML and things like that is because we just have not like worked on it enough. Let's go back to this over here. So the GPT prompt is what's giving this as an output, right? So we simply just need to have a message that says, do not include the HTML. Anyways, that's besides the point. The point is, this streamlines the process, right? And so with this particular automation, let me get into some of the other things that are bad with it. Let's go to Slack. It's called Slack. And Actually, I've got a lot of Slack ones. This is thread, right? So Slack thread, reply to email threads, right? So one of the things that's bad with this one is the level of complexity versus the level of understanding that the people who request it have. Let me explain. So this one is a 3-step automation. So we will open the third, the second, and then the first one. This is a 3-step automation, and look how many modules it has. It's got a bunch of modules, right? And then look at this one. It has a bunch of other modules. And then this one, also a bunch of modules, right? And so the level of complexity that this particular automation has is so much higher than most automations, yet people try to set this up. And so what I typically recommend to people is to go for the simpler automations. If you don't have high bounce, low leads monitoring, you shouldn't be building anything like this. Like this stuff is just pointless, right? Make sure you have all of the basics first, right? If you don't have a smart lead client database, if you don't have like this is probably the biggest thing that I would say is crucial for my agency, the client's database, right? And the client onboarding, right? Creating onboarding docs, purchasing domains, doing all of these different steps, having a process to create campaigns simultaneously, having a basic structure of project management, having all of these simple automations that we already have over here, right? Tasks for email disconnects. We've got that over here. What else is here? Duplicate subsequence, add BCC, make scenario backups. I love this one over here. Like there's a bunch of much simpler automations. Like I also even have the weekly reports. Like this is something that you could literally just copy, right? You could just copy this one. So these ones are much simpler, and they will get the ball rolling much faster than something like this. Because as you can see, this is doing a lot of things. It's reversing arrays. It's aggregating text. It's converting HTML to Markdown. But not only is it converting HTML to Markdown, it's also using custom formulas that split the content of the message up for you, right? And ensuring that when you send the emails through over to Slack, you're only sending the first section and you're not sending the entire previous thread. And this is the formula that allows us to do that. But if you're sending in different languages, as you can see, we're using from on Monday, on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, all the way up till Sunday. If you're speaking with people that are in French, in German, or whatever, you're still going to run into that, right? And so you would actually have to convert that. But if you don't understand how this is working and why this formula is here, you're just going to be confused. That's another thing. Another thing, it's using AI to convert the markdown format into nice looking text, right? And then sending the message to Slack. But we're not just sending the message to Slack, we're using a Slack application. So this is not a simple Slack incoming webhook. This is a Slack application that leverages a Slack block kit. So look at all of this code right here. So this is a JSON file that we send. And by the way, here's the thing, you could just copy it, right? So you're already like 80% of the way there. Like you're already good because I've already built it for you, right? So you're it's not so bad because you're copying what I've already got. But if something breaks, you will not know why it broke. So you should probably build something much simpler than that. And then we use that same Slack app to have a second step over here, which is going to parse the JSON, delete the message, send it to the third step over here, which is what's going to be replying to Smart Lead. And so if you think about this, it's like the most complicated thing of all time for such a simple solution, which is just replying to email threads. Again, if you're having this back and forth with your clients and it's taking 1 to 3 days to just get back to an email thread, god damn, this is going to be so amazing for you. But if that's not you, then what are you doing? Don't get this. And then final thing, I want to show you guys is nothing. Nothing. Just download all of these other automations, but unless you're in that particular situation or you're very skilled with automations, don't download this automation. Just leave it. Leave it alone. Cheers.